If you ever heard the name BØRNS before, it's probably due to the song Electric Love or 10,000 Emerald Pools from his last album. But this year, January 12th, he came out with his latest album. BØRNS, birth name Garrett Clark Borns, was born on January 1992 in Grand Haven, Michigan. He mostly just sticks to an indie rock, pop, alternative style that's very, very unique and distinctive, and his voice definitely stretches out and is very recognizable from any of the other artists in the genre. Originally, he started his music career under the name Garrett Borns, his actual name, and released an album called A Dream in Between in 2012. Then around sometime in 2014, he switched to the name just BØRNS, with stylized as BØRNS with then an O with a slash through it. He released the song 10,000 Emerald Pools, which is a very popular song from his first album, Dopamine. And he also released the Candy EP, which would be his first EP that would lead before Dopamine. 2015, he would then come out with his biggest hitter in May, Electric Love, and then following up with Dopamine, his first debut album, in August 17th, 2015. He then took 2016 to tour, just take a general break, started his next album, and returned in 2017 during the summer in July with his newest single, Faded Heart. He then followed that single with 3 other singles, Sweet Dreams, I Don't Want You Back, and God Save Our Young Bloods featuring Lana Del Rey. Now these were scattered throughout the rest of the year of 2017 and the first week of 2018 when God Save Our Young Bloods came out, and the following week came out with the release of his newest album, Blue Madonna. To open up the album, he kind of just takes hit you with the commercial type deal. What he thinks it's gonna sell. God Save Our Young Bloods is definitely the most poppy, kind of radio-friendly song that is definitely a great song, but it's definitely there to like build up some hype, make sure some people hear about the album, come give it a listen and see what he's all about. But it's a great start off to the album as well. Not unique, but the instrumentals he uses makes it sound unique, even though a lot of them are actually very common, but there's just something off that he does that makes them all sound so great and magnificent together. The next 2 songs on the album are Faded Heart and Sweet Dreams, 2 of the other singles, and Faded Heart is a bit more of a rock song, which then Sweet Dreams kind of turns into a 80s synth anthem that both very feel-good, kind of interesting, will keep you listening type songs. The 4th track is We Don't Care, which has a very funky, edgy sound, kind of cutting. It's very nice. Once has a thing where he takes giant saws and then has it traveling pan from one side to the other, and he uses it in tons of his different songs, especially on this album. And almost all of them are different, but they're almost perfect in how they're done. It really gives each and every song that they're in a new feel, and especially like in this song, We Don't Care, it really gives it a vibe that makes this song stand out from the rest, even though yet all the songs kind of have something like it. Man and Iceberg were more not 2 of my favorite songs in the track, which were the next 2, number 5 and 6. Man was more of a disco track on the album, even though the entire album was kind of 80s throwback. But that was the most, I feel like I was living in the 80s while listening to that song. Iceberg is a little light, like it sounded like it was missing something maybe, and it has this odd guitar like hit that isn't bad, but it just doesn't strike right with me. I feel like it's one of those things where it's very like me, and it's just me that might not like it. Second Night of Summer starts picking up the album again, and it has very nice sliding synths like I was talking about earlier, and saws, and it's just an overall great sound and very soft yet at the same time. Then it follows into the last single from prior to the album called I Don't Want You Back, that has a very auto-tuned voice on him, and the chorus is probably my favorite part. Any part of the album is the chorus. Just I was talking about the great sliding synth again, or saw. It sounds very good and gets you really hooked into the chorus, and then right at the end of the chorus, when he starts repeating I Don't Want You Back, it hits it with it's another just sweeping synth that comes in the way, all the different kinds and sounds of sweeping large room synths that he uses, and yet none of them sound the same. It's astonishing. Then comes a funky little interlude called Tension. Nothing too crazy there, just an interlude. Then the album kind of starts to come to a close with Supernatural, which is obviously somewhat supernatural. Kind of has a Halloween-y type vibe, but it doesn't really stick out as well because a lot of the style of the 80s that he has a lot of those same instruments. The title track, Blue Madonna, it's also missing a little something. It's not bad. It sounds very nice. Lana Del Rey does feature backup vocals on it, so I figure that one will have a higher hype just because Lana is on it. Then the album finishes off very acoustically with Bye Bye Darling, a very nice guitar and piano. It does have some synths, but for the most part, it's stripped back like from the rest of the album, and kind of just has a nice goodbye vibe. Nothing's too memorable from it, other than the fact that it's just different than the rest of the album. It does, however, wrap up the album very well. Bye Bye Darling, obviously a goodbye as the album is ending. It all just kind of fits very nicely. For the highs of the album, definitely all the singles were very, very good in my opinion. Probably the best parts were the singles, but other than that, on the actual album songs, We Don't Care was a high point for me. And then also Second Night of Summer, which I do think is probably my favorite actual album track. But of the singles, I would say I Don't Want You Back and God Save Our Young Bloods are probably my two favorite. The lows are probably the closing tracks, Supernatural, Blue Madonna, Bye Bye Darling. There's nothing terrible about them. It's a pretty good album, so I can't really shit on anything too much. But really, Iceberg and Man were kind of the not so strong parts for me. They really just didn't seem to fit in that point at the album. I feel like maybe Blue Madonna and Bye Bye Darling, if Bye Bye Darling wasn't already a good closer track, would have fit better up there. But maybe could have taken a little bit more time to look over at that point. So in the end, I'd probably give the album about an 8 out of 10. It's pretty solid, has a lot of stuff I really enjoy. He's definitely keeping up his name and continuing to make good music that doesn't really stray anything too far from what he's done in the past. The instrumentals on this album is probably my favorite part, just the sound that his vibe gives, and it's all very nice and connected. The album reminds me of a body, how your hand's over on one side and yet your foot's way down at the bottom, and yet they're still connected somehow. That's how their songs feel. Like when the bass might not feel the same as some high eerie thing that's happening, but because of the other instruments that are there, it all sounds very fluid and connected. His vocals and lyrics are, of course, a high point. He has very original, not thought-provoking, but interesting lyrics, and his vocals are very nice and unique. It's good to hear a voice like his that is popular, because not many are. And downsides, like I said before, Man and Iceberg are really not my favorite parts, but I don't really think they're major downsides. So yeah.